The town of Marrow Bay had always been shrouded in mystery. Tucked away in a forgotten corner of the world, it was a place where the ocean waves crashed violently against jagged rocks and where the winds seemed to whisper ancient secrets to those brave enough to listen. For generations, the people of Marrow Bay lived their lives in isolation, and yet, every now and then, strangers would arrive, drawn to the eerie beauty of the bay and the stories of strange occurrences that surrounded it. Evelyn, a young historian with an interest in the supernatural, had heard whispers about the town her entire life. Tales of shadows that moved on their own, voices that echoed from the sea, and figures that appeared in the fog, only to vanish as soon as they were seen. Intrigued by the legends, she set out to uncover the truth behind Marrow Bay's mysteries. When she arrived at the edge of the town, the sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the water. The town seemed to sleep beneath the weight of its fog, but there was something unnerving about it. The people she passed by stared at her with cautious eyes, and the air felt heavier than it should have been. Evelyn made her way to the town's small inn, where the innkeeper, a grizzled old man with a deep frown, welcomed her with little more than a grunt. "Stay if you must," he muttered, "but don't go near the cliffs at night." Evelyn was puzzled by his cryptic warning, but she paid him little mind. She had come here to uncover the truth, and she wouldn't be deterred by the strange superstitions of the townspeople. That night, as the fog thickened and the wind howled, Evelyn sat by the fire in her room, her mind racing with questions. The innkeeper's words kept echoing in her head, but it was the town itself that held her fascination. Something about it felt wrong. She decided to take a walk through the town before it became too late. The streets were eerily quiet, save for the occasional creak of an old building or the flutter of wings in the distance. As she wandered deeper into the heart of Marrow Bay, Evelyn noticed that many of the houses were abandoned, their windows boarded up, their doors locked. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her. As she reached the cliffs that overlooked the bay, a strange feeling washed over her. The mist seemed to swirl around her, thickening, as though the air itself was alive with the whispers of the past. Evelyn moved closer to the edge of the cliff, and that's when she saw it, a figure standing on the rocks below, barely visible in the fog, gazing out to sea. Before she could call out, the figure vanished, as if swallowed by the mist. Evelyn's heart raced, but she was undeterred. There was something more to this town, something hidden in its fog, and she was determined to find it. The next morning, Evelyn decided to visit the local library, hoping to find records about the town's history. The building was tucked away on a side street, and as she entered, the musty smell of old books greeted her. The librarian, an elderly woman with a sharp gaze, looked at her with interest, but said nothing. Evelyn asked for any records about Marrow Bay's past, particularly about strange happenings or disappearances. The librarian's eyes darkened, but she led Evelyn to the back of the library where ancient, dust-covered tomes were kept. As she leafed through the pages, Evelyn came across an old journal, one that looked like it had been untouched for centuries. The handwriting inside was barely legible, but she could make out a few key words: whispers from the sea, shadows that follow, and the curse of Marrow Bay. The more she read, the more she felt a sense of dread settle over her. The journal spoke of a time long ago when a ship had crashed in the bay, its crew lost to the ocean. But it wasn't the shipwreck that intrigued Evelyn, it was the mention of the shadows that followed the survivors and the curse that had haunted the town ever since. Just as she was about to read more, the librarian appeared behind her. "Leave it," she said sternly. "You don't want to know what's hidden here. It's better if you leave now, before it's too late." Ignoring the librarian's warning, Evelyn continued her investigation. She knew that something terrible had happened in Marrow Bay, and she needed to uncover the truth. She decided to visit the cliffs again that night, hoping to find more clues about the figure she had seen earlier. As dusk settled over the village, Evelyn walked along the path to the cliffs, her heart pounding in her chest. The fog had returned, thicker than before, and the shadows of the trees loomed ominously around her. But this time, as she approached the edge of the cliff, she felt something watching her, something far more sinister than before. The figure appeared again, standing at the rocks below, staring up at her with glowing eyes. But this time, it didn't disappear. It was as if the figure had been waiting for her. Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine, but she didn't back away. She stepped closer, and the figure began to move toward her. As it drew closer, Evelyn saw that the figure was not human. Its form was twisted, almost ethereal, and its eyes glowed with an unnatural light. The air around her grew cold, and the whispers from the fog grew louder, filling her mind with thoughts she couldn't control. Before Evelyn could react, the figure lunged at her, and the world around her seemed to dissolve into darkness. She fell, her body hitting the cold ground below. The last thing she saw before everything went black was the shadow of the figure looming above her. When she awoke, she was no longer on the cliffs, but in a dark, hollow space. The fog had surrounded her, and the whispers were louder than ever. They seemed to be coming from all directions, urging her to listen, to understand. Suddenly, the figure appeared again, this time standing just in front of her. Its eyes burned with an intensity that took Evelyn's breath away. The curse had been unleashed, and she was now a part of it. She had crossed into the realm of the shadows, and there was no turning back. The figure's voice, like a low murmur, spoke directly into her mind. "You're the chosen one. You will carry the curse, and it will live through you. The whispers are your only guide. Follow them." Evelyn's heart raced as the shadows closed in around her, but she knew now that she had to follow. There was no escape, only the darkness that awaited her. Evelyn's body felt heavy, as if the very air in the realm was pulling her down. She could hardly breathe, her chest tightening with the weight of the unseen forces around her. The figure, now fully formed, hovered just inches away, its presence suffocating. Its glowing eyes pierced through her, as if reading her very soul. "You've entered my world now," it whispered, its voice barely audible yet unmistakable. "The curse cannot be undone, but you can learn its truth. The shadows are your only allies." Evelyn's mind raced. What had she gotten herself into? She remembered the journal from the library. There was something about shadows that followed. The curse she had read about wasn't just a superstition, it was real. She had stepped into a nightmare that no one had been able to escape. Yet, she felt strangely drawn to the creature in front of her, as though its dark energy was pulling her in. "Follow me," the figure said, and without another word, it began to move, dissolving into the fog. The shadows around Evelyn shifted, beckoning her. She didn't know why, but she followed. The whispers grew louder, now like an incessant hum in the back of her mind, guiding her deeper into the darkness. She didn't know how long she walked through the fog, but the landscape began to change. The shadows seemed to take on forms, twisted, grotesque figures that lurked just beyond her vision. The ground beneath her feet became slick with moisture, and the temperature dropped drastically. She shivered, but kept moving. She had no choice. As they ventured further, the shadows parted to reveal something in the distance. A large stone altar stood at the center of a clearing, bathed in the eerie glow of the figure's eyes. The altar was ancient, covered in moss and etched with strange symbols that pulsed with an unnatural light. The air around it hummed, as though it were alive with magic, ancient and forgotten. "This is the place where it all began," the figure said, its voice echoing in Evelyn's mind. "The ritual that binds the curse to the land, to all who step foot in Marrow Bay." Evelyn stood frozen, her eyes wide. She had heard rumors of rituals, of an ancient magic that tied the town to the sea, but she had never imagined anything like this. The figure's words sank into her mind, and suddenly, she understood. The curse wasn't just a punishment, it was a cycle, an eternal prison for all who dared to enter. To break the cycle, the figure continued, "You must make a choice. Will you take my place and become one with the shadows, or will you release us all? The power to end this nightmare lies within your hands." Evelyn's heart raced as the weight of the decision bore down on her. She could feel the darkness creeping into her thoughts, but at the same time, something inside her resisted. She couldn't let the curse continue. She wouldn't let the shadows claim her. As the figure's eyes glowed brighter, The shadows around Evelyn began to form shapes, whispers of past victims, their faces twisted in torment. Their eyes were empty, lost in the same dark fate she now faced. They reached out to her, silently begging her to join them. But Evelyn's resolve grew stronger. She couldn't let herself be consumed by this darkness. "You want me to become one of them," Evelyn said, her voice trembling, but filled with defiance. "But I won't. I will not carry your curse. I will find another way." The figure paused, its glowing eyes narrowing. For the first time, it seemed uncertain. "You think you can break the curse? Do you truly believe you can defy what has been set in motion for centuries? The darkness has already taken root in this place. It will follow you." Evelyn's grip tightened on the edge of the altar. "I won't let it," she whispered fiercely. "I'll fight no matter what." The shadows writhed, and the figure let out a sound that could only be described as a deep, resonating growl. The air became thick with power, and Evelyn felt the pull of the darkness again, stronger than ever before. The ground beneath her trembled, and the altar began to crack as if the very land was protesting her decision. The world around Evelyn seemed to spin. The fog thickened, and the shadows closed in tighter, but she held her ground. In that moment, she realized that the power she sought wasn't just in the ritual or in the decision. It was within her all along, the strength to fight the curse, the will to resist the pull of the darkness. The figure seemed to sense her determination, its form flickering in and out of existence. It reached out to her once more, its hand like a mass of shifting shadows. But Evelyn, with every ounce of strength she could summon, grasped the ancient symbols on the altar and pressed them into the stone. There was a blinding flash of light as the power from the altar surged through her. For a split second, it felt like the entire world was on the edge of collapsing, but then everything stopped. The figure let out a deafening scream as the shadows around it disintegrated. The fog began to lift, and the eerie whispers faded. The air grew still, and for the first time since Evelyn had arrived in Marrow Bay, the land seemed to breathe freely. But Evelyn wasn't sure if she had one yet. She had broken the curse for now, but she could feel the darkness still lingering deep within the earth, waiting for the right moment to rise again. As the fog cleared and the shadows receded, the moonlight bathed the land in a soft glow. The ancient altar had crumbled into nothing, leaving only dust behind. Evelyn stood alone in the clearing, her chest heavy with the weight of what she had just experienced. She had broken the curse, but at what cost? The village of Marrow Bay, once shrouded in darkness, was now calm. The people, though they didn't understand what had happened, could feel the change. The oppressive air that had haunted the village for generations was gone, and for the first time, they could breathe freely. But as Evelyn walked back toward the village, she knew that this peace wouldn't last forever. The curse had been broken for now, but something told her that it would return, as all dark things eventually do. She had fought the shadows and won, but the battle was not over. She had become the keeper of Marrow Bay's secret, the guardian of its ancient curse. And she would never forget the lessons she had learned, the whispers, the darkness, and the power that had risen within her. She would carry them with her always, knowing that the shadows would one day return.